So good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us in another EUROPARC webinar. As I guess you already know by now, EUROPARC is the largest European network of protected areas. We have 400 members from 4 European countries. In order to support our members, we have an ambitious capacity building program, which includes webinars like the one we are doing today, that we tend to organize once per month. We cover a very large range of topics, from marine, to peri-urban parks, from health promotion to agriculture, from yacht to transboundary. It is really impressive the number of different topics, functions, and issues that protected areas managers need to know about. Besides, we also have specific programs that focus on certain topics. And one of the longest is the European Charter of Sustainable Tourism in Protected Areas, which 2 years ago turned 20 years old, 20 years of success, I would say. And the main goal is to help protected areas and their area of influence to become sustainable destinations. So it is in the framework of this program that we are organizing today's webinar. At present, we have 103 sustainable destinations from 15 European countries. We have also awarded more than 700 sustainable business and 10 sustainable tour operators. You can have all this information in our website. Tourism has many challenges ahead. Reducing seasonality is one of them, but also it is climate change. A tremendous one, of course. It became painfully evident this summer with the hottest temperatures ever in Europe. So if the situation continues like this, especially for the southern destinations, it will inevitably affect tourism. So some of them may be constrained to change the seasonality, because simply it would be not bearable anymore because of high temperatures to concentrate tourism in the hottest season because of the temperatures, but also because of the lack of water. So we are really grateful to Xavier Font for proposing this webinar. It just came in the right time, the right moment, because of the current situation. Of course, sustainable tourism and reducing seasonality has been a long-time concern for the destinations for economic and social reasons. But I would say also for environmental reasons. If a business is able to extend their seasonality, the time they work, they would become more efficient. They would all the investment they will do in order to reduce their energy consumption, for example, will be more profitable. So all in all, would benefit climate change and mitigation as a whole. So thanks again, Xavier Font, for proposing this webinar. I don't think I need to introduce you very largely. I know you're a very well-known professor in the University of Surrey. He teaches sustainable marketing, and he's now the current principal professor of an Interreg project experience that tackles the problem of tourism seasonality. So before I give him the floor, just to remind you that this webinar is recorded. So if you don't want to appear, just feel free to switch off your camera. We would like to know you. So if you could put your name, but also the organization where you come from, that would help us. And since we have so many people, we will take questions, but on the chat. Only we have the possibility to give the open mic, we will do it at the end of the session. So thanks, Xavier. Xavier, you have now the floor.
Right. let me unmute. Thanks, Teresa, for the introduction. And it's great to see so many people. Actually, I love seeing, when you're putting where you're coming from and what people are presenting. So I was going to say good morning, and for the majority of you, good morning, but I've seen at least one person from Australia. So very good evening to you, wherever you are. And, I wanted to talk about this combination that Teresa was mentioning earlier on. How do we reduce seasonality through design of more sustainable tourism experiences? And I think it's timely to do this. And I also thought, let's do it at this time of year when you still have a chance, at least in the Northern Hemisphere. Of course, for you in Melbourne is a different story, but in the Northern Hemisphere, this is our last chance to try to do something different for this particular winter, okay? The Experience project is funded by Interreg. It's one of the last projects that the UK can be part of. We carried this forward from, it was agreed before Brexit, and so here we still are. And it's a fairly large project. I happen to have a small role in the University of Surrey. The main lead partner is Norfolk County Council in the UK, and there's a variety of partners that we have working this. And essentially what we've been doing for some time is looking at ways in which we can design more sustainable experiences. Now, there is a website, tourismexperience.org, where you'll be able to find videos on the different topics that we talk about today, but also manuals and additional training materials that you can go back to. Sometimes for somebody to watch an entire 1-hour video like today, it's a lot. So on the 6 topics that you've got here, for each one of them, you've got a 5-minute video that then you can use and you can share with your members of staff or colleagues afterwards, as well as then kind of short presentations that come with it. Because we're using European money, essentially our taxpayers' money, all the material that is available on this website is free to access, and we published it with Creative Commons license, which means that you are allowed to reuse all the PowerPoint slides, even for commercial gain. So if you're a consultant, you can adapt our slides and reuse them. The purpose here, again, is taxpayers' money. Like there should be no paywalls, okay? Particularly when something is paid by the public sector. So please, reuse the materials, the manuals, the slides, use them in your own park, translate them if you want. We've got the PowerPoint slides in Spanish, in English, and in French, and I can make all those available to you if you cannot find them on the website. For example, the Spanish ones are not on the website at the moment, okay? But the main point I want to make to you, if you are a DMO, Destination Management Organization, is please, 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 stop selling high season. The only way you're going to get creative, right, in selling low season is to just stop selling high season. If you're still selling high season, you're making a mistake. The private sector can do this, right? But you as the public sector, you've got the role of actually selling the difficult products, the more creative products, okay? I was looking a few days ago at a website from a destination near Barcelona where I'm delivering some training online. And right now, in October, they had photos of people wearing swimming, T-shirts and shorts. What's the message they're sending through those photos? Don't come back to my destination until May. And then that same destination was complaining that we have seasonality. Now, I'm not saying changing the photos will be enough to completely change it, but I think the type of photos you're putting on your own website, the type of messages you're putting across is indicative of what you think the priority is, okay? So what I'm proposing is that you first think, products, enough. You can get away with selling products, with explaining what are the resources that you have in high season, simply because you know in your destination people will come in high season anyway. It doesn't require an awful lot of effort to sell high season, right? If selling high season is difficult, today we're doing a post-mortem, okay? There's no way we're going to save this. To sell winter, of course, it's harder than selling summer. But if you're a DMO, if you are a national park, again, you are also using taxpayers' money. The taxpayers are not giving you money to do something easy, right? I mean, that's just not what you're there for. So you need to help businesses in your destination, and also the marketing materials you design and the products you structure in your own destination need to use the customer's 5 senses, because just trying to engage in one of the 5 senses will not be enough to tell them when it's cold, it's dark, and it's wet. Should I leave my house or should I stay in my house where it's nice and cozy? So you'll need to work a lot harder. So you need to work on the aesthetics, work on color, light, right? Contrast of darkness and lightness. You need to enhance your experiences by music and artificial sounds. You need to provide textures. Your experience have to be three-dimensional. You need to really work not only on the odors and the tastes, but on how you communicate them. And importantly, you need to work on inclusivity and accessibility. Now, at the moment, I feel that mostly what we do, I'm trying to apply here a risk management approach to the idea of how do we design experiences. And I think at the moment, what we are doing is we're accepting that the risk is there. And we're basically just saying the only way in which I can manage to create demand for winter is reduce my prices. Bear with me, I'm exaggerating for effect. I know I only have 1 hour, and some of you will feel very offended and say, how dare you? We do a lot more than that. True, but overall, there are many, many businesses, many destinations, that their perception of the only thing you can do is reduce price. What I'm proposing is, actually, you can do a lot more than that. You can avoid the problem to a certain extent by circumventing it, such as identifying new markets that you can serve. And we'll talk about that in a second. You can control, mitigate, modify, or reduce the likelihood of winter conditions negatively affecting your product. So you need to look at ways in which you can weatherproof and upgrade your offer by accessing some of the shortcomings that we've got in low season. And we'll talk about that also in a second. You can reduce prices, but actually you can do more than that. Too many businesses just close in winter or reduce prices, or they just see seasonality as an uncontrollable event. And I suspect that for many, many places, we could do better than that. Okay. Or you can transfer and share your risks. So you can partner with other organizations that basically will take some of the risk from you by essentially putting together a joint product with you, where you can say, well, I'm good at what I do, but somebody else is going to step in and do some of the work with me. So let's look at different seasons and different markets that we've got to work with. Now, my first question here is, why do we treat all of our customers, our market segments, the same? We know that low and high season customers are very different, okay? And yet, we tend to treat them the same. How many times do I see businesses saying, I have a database and I send one single message to all my consumers saying exactly the same thing? And my answer is, are you kidding me? You have people that repeat coming to your business. Say, for example, if you're an accommodation 3 times a year, if you're a restaurant every week, if you're a tourist attraction maybe every month, and you treat them the same in your marketing materials as the people who only came once in their lifetime, or the people who inquired about prices but they never came, how do you think the same marketing materials is going to serve the needs of such different groups? And equally, you cannot treat customers that visit you in low season in the same way as customers that treat and visit you in high season. You need a much more sophisticated usage of your database for marketing purposes. Okay, so it's time that now you invest more money and more effort into the different markets that you've got. And do you understand how to be more inclusive of the different groups and different customers? Okay, you would not believe how difficult it was for me to find a photo like the one here on the right-hand side. And you'll say, what's different about that photo? Well, not only the girl is pregnant, which you hardly ever see photos of pregnant people, let alone people who are not white. We'll talk about that in a second. But also finding good photos of off-season, boy, that's hard. Even the DMOs don't have them. All their photos pretend that in England, where I am, it's always sunny, it's always pretty, right? And if I say to you through my photography, come to England, it's always sunny. How many of the 148 of you who are in the call right now will say, nah, you're lying to me, okay? Why don't we sell seasons that make the place look attractive at different times of year? So you need to understand the different needs of different markets and use that knowledge to basically think, how do I adapt my products? So obviously in low season, it clearly is locals first, right? And you have to think, how do I work with those locals? How do I make sure that I don't look at locals as second-class citizens? COVID actually showed us that locals are a very good market. I think pre-COVID, we'd forgotten that locals existed. They were the backdrop for international visitors to do something fun. And the locals were just there as props. Okay, but actually, I think what we find is the first-time customers are much more predictable, but also much harder to influence, whereas the local market is very, very different. Let's say if I went to the Eiffel Tower, sorry, if I went to Paris for the first time, would I visit the Eiffel Tower? 100%. If I go to Paris for the 5th time, will I still go to the Eiffel Tower? I'll probably just look at it from the distance and I'll do something else. So when we basically say, when we design products as a national park, we need to have at least 3 priorities, geographical dispersion, temporal dispersion, and product diversification. And actually locals really help you to achieve all those 3 things. It is true that they may spend less money per person per day. It is also true that it's harder to measure how many of them are there and how much do they spend. But the fact that it's harder to measure them does not mean they're not there or they're not important to your business. So, for example, we've seen attractions, we've seen this museum that in summer they've got a full collection. There is a permanent collection that attracts first-time visitors and has got some very well-known paintings. But in winter, they actually clear all the collection from their walls. They put everything in storage and is used for doing activities away from being tourism events to actually having a calendar of cultural programs for the local communities. And they basically said, would we rather have the same collection on the walls all winter, but the local people say, I saw it 5 years ago, nothing has changed? Or would you rather actually have the effort that says, we will clear all of it, maybe we'll not open all 3 floors in the building, we will store some of this in the top floor, and now we have a blank canvas to do other things with our local communities. You need to encourage repeat visits. Off-season is entirely about repeat visitation. And if you don't make good use of your databases and your distribution channels to actually encourage repeat visitation, then you're in trouble. So you need to tell customers what to look forward to. For example, on the way out of your venue, do you tell customers what's happening next week or next month? Do you immediately give them a reason to return? When I go to the cinema, what's the first thing the cinema does? They show me trailers of the films that will be showing in that cinema in 2 or 3 weeks' time to encourage me to come back. They could just go straight into the film and not do the advertising, but I'm prepared to accept the advertising. I'm being excited about the advertising on what's to look forward to. If you're a restaurant, can you show me the menu of what's happening now? But can you tell me next month is the month of cooking with mushrooms, and the following month is the month of mixing meat with berries and using berries in the way I cook my meat, and so on and so forth. Like, you need to have a theme, but tell me now also what will happen next month, because you then give me that sense of I need to come back. Give me an incentive to rebook now, as opposed to saying, oh, I'll remember to book. Create an annual pass, right? All tourist attractions should have an annual pass format, because this way you're moving away from saying, I visit the attraction once, to saying, this is an attraction I can go to do a number of things. I've seen tourist attractions have organized something as simple as knit and natter, where people go and do their knitting there, meet in the middle of the morning, and they have a coffee, and you're thinking, wow, that's using a table. Yeah, but that table would otherwise probably be empty. So think about, how do you create an autumn to spring membership? What happens at that time of year? How do you create a midweek membership? How do you create a 9 to 3 p.m. membership? Different things that people can do in your tourist attractions so you encourage the return. And you may say, but I don't have anything that I can offer to those people. Well, don't worry about it. We'll get to that in a second, the next slide. Create a sense of belonging. Create a club of regular users. Like the train station near my house has a group of elderly people that go there every Tuesday to do a bit of gardening. And they look after all the gardens from the train station to make them look pretty. Why do they do it? Because there's a sense of belonging, and because the cafe at the train station will give them all a coffee afterwards. And it's a social way of people actually getting together and doing something in their retirement age. But not only you can do this, you can reward people, who are loyal with certain offers. Okay, and linked to providing loyalty gifts. I know of shops that, for example, sell stationery, that if you register with them when it's your birthday, they give you a voucher of a £5 discount, £5, €6. Okay, and what does that mean? That, for example, for a 12-year-old kid, who's going to, for their birthday, quite possibly be given money by grandparents and so on, the fact that that particular shop also gives you a £5, €6 discount or free voucher means that you're likely to go and spend some of your grandparents' money in that shop where you already have a discount to celebrate your birthday. So equally, I have seen restaurants that in the off season, they basically give you a birthday gift. If it's your birthday and you can prove it, you can bring your ID card and say, look, today's my birthday. You get a free slice of cake. How many of you are going to go to celebrate your birthday in a bar on your own? Nobody, right? So you're going to bring people with you. The fact they had to give you a small discount and you become the place where people go and celebrate their birthdays, fantastic, keep going. You may have to discount, you may have to upsell, but actually upselling is a lot better than discounting, isn't it? So particularly in winter, rather than saying, the only way I can bring you in is by giving you, charging you less money, you can say there are specific things that only happen in winter where will allow you to be part of that particular experience. So I absolutely love this example on geocaching. Why? Because so many places have tried geocaching and nobody, in my opinion, has done it as well as this destination. They've got thousands and thousands of followers. They've got an amazing community that follows them. And what they do is they make sure that all of the geocaching locations are very, very well maintained, that the prices that you get when you reach those locations are worth traveling there for, and that there is a sense that you can have all of these different badges that you can collect that basically make you feel like you've been rewarded properly. The result is higher visitation numbers, higher loyalty numbers, local people being much more physically active, midweek, weekends, but also a demand that is much more year-round. But going back to an example I know better from Spain, this is an example from David. Even, he's the kind of person you give him half an idea and he converts it into 3 ideas. And he came to one of my training programs some time ago. And he learned about the UK National Trust's program, 50 things to do before you are 11 3/4. And you'll say, what does that mean? Essentially, it's a program to encourage kids before the age of 12 to actually go into nature and do all sorts of activities, like flying a kite, rolling down a hill, climbing a tree, playing poo sticks, which if you don't know it, it's linked to Winnie the Pooh, and you go over a bridge and you throw 2 sticks down one side of the stream and then you walk to the other side of the river and you see which one of the 2 sticks goes past first. Every single one of the 50 things to do has a 0 carbon footprint. But you don't get people to do things that are lower carbon footprint by pointing your finger at them and saying, Teresa, you're a bad person because you are causing a carbon footprint. And what's Teresa going to say? Leave me alone, I'm on a holiday, right? So we have to actually nudge people in a much more subtle way. And the 50 things to do here encourage people to stay for longer and to repeat, right? So David basically used this in his resort and he said, right, I'm going to do these 50 things as well, but I'm going to make sure that 10 of those things can only be done in autumn because they require leaves of different colors to be collected. And I'm going to do 10 things that can only happen in spring because of the type of flowers and birds I'm suggesting that people see. And every time you do 10 of those things, David gives you the most important thing in the world for a 6-year-old, a sticker that makes you feel like you've actually achieved something amazing. And by the time you've done all 50, the whole family gets a free camping weekend in one of their yurts or teepees or treepees, even more exciting. Treepee as in a teepee that hangs from a tree, okay? Don't tell me, it makes you feel a bit seasick, but it seems like a good idea at the time. But the idea essentially here is he has found ways of rewarding customers to come back. And I said to David, this is really generous. And he said, it's not generous at all. The kind of family that does this is the kind of family I wanted to have as customers. These are my wholesome customers. These are the customers that is a pleasure to have them. And they recommend me, they post about me on the internet, they're always doing really nice, they're my ambassadors. So I'm really happy to offer them a weekend for free in spring or autumn, right? He doesn't say winter because in winter he's got ski market. Now, after the exciting news, let me just have 30 seconds of potentially telling you off, okay? Have a look at all your photos you use in your national park, okay? And are all your photos implicitly targeting white, Christian, middle-class, heterosexual couples with 2 children who are able to drive and have no disabilities. Because if you are, you really are out of touch with the world that you live in. That maybe the market is currently coming to your park, but we have a major problem with essentially telling people only if you have those characteristics, you are welcome in a national park. In the UK, we've had big problems with every single food supplier in some of our national parks not catering for people from Hindu, Muslim, Jewish communities. You cannot find halal food anywhere. You cannot find kosher food anywhere. So you're telling people from other religions, you either bring your own picnic or you're not welcome in my national park, right? Easy way of solving that, offer vegetarian food. Vegetarian food can be eaten by every religion, right? Nobody has a problem with broccoli, okay? Except if you don't like broccoli. But you see where I'm coming from. So the challenge here is you have to find ways in which your visuals are actually saying to people that you welcome a diverse community. They don't have to be token photos, okay? They have to be photos that genuinely show that you are offering a product that works well. But we have seen that companies demonstrate confidence in being able to cater for the market with disabilities, achieve actually a 25% higher revenue. We have seen in the UK, for example, the properties that genuinely look after people with physical disabilities well, particularly self-catering properties, have a much higher occupancy rate than the properties that don't. Okay, that was my kind of warning lights there. For a second, I'm moving on to the next topic now. We've just talked about market. Next thing, we're going to talk about your product. So you may say, well, Xavi, that's a great idea, but my product doesn't allow me to do that at the moment. Well, true. That's because you have considered markets for the summer and also you've considered products for the summer. And typically, both with the markets and the products, what we tend to do is we say, I am designing for high usage, and then I'm hoping that people will put up with a lower quality product in the off-season at the expense of a lower price. And that's it. That's the creativity that we go to very often. And what I'm saying to you, actually, there is something really beautiful about your place in the off-season, and we're not making the most of that. So you need to think for a second, take a step back, take a deep breath, and go outdoors this weekend and look around and just think, what's different about my natural environment this time of year? What's different about the colors, the smells, the sounds? How do you communicate this to somebody? What are the emotions that you can have in your destination by going there in the low season? In summer, your beach is full. In winter, it's your only chance to go for a dog walk on the beach and actually get those sun rays, but still be dressed, with a hat and gloves and so on. But in winter, it's your moment. It's you and your dog and that chance of having a walk. There's a sense of adventure. There's a sense of something special about having the place to yourself. You've got access to places and things you wouldn't normally have access to. Places look different. Photos look better in winter very often because the air is not, dizzy, is not kind of foggy, but actually you can take much crisper, sharper photos. The time is different. You can allow yourself to do things very differently in winter, particularly if you attract more local markets who don't feel like they have to do a whistle-stop tour of 6 national parks in Europe in 7 days. Okay, so you can actually sell other things through your social media or through your own website. The amazing secondhand bookshops that are near you, the local cafes that will have comfy sofas and you'll be able to sit down and read a book, activities that you wouldn't be able to organize during summer. And specific events, you may say, well, maybe in winter I kind of have full demand all the time. That's fine, but you can then do specific things at particular moments in time to achieve that. You need to also assess the readiness of whether your product or your resources are ready for that winter. Okay, so do you have an indoor space where people can go in and out, particularly if you're a tourist attraction and you're very much an outdoor-based tourist attraction? Where will people go to get warm? How will they have some hubs that concentrate people? Do you provide suitable equipment so people don't have to buy the equipment, in the first place? Major problem with tourism is not only the carbon footprint of traveling to somewhere, is the fact that many, many people buy equipment and they use it just once. Or that people who are prevented from going on holiday because they haven't got the money to buy the equipment. So you may say, I'm happy to provide this equipment for you guys. You need to guarantee people that you'll have weatherproof access. They'll be able to reach you, if, so many people from cities in particular that will say, what if it's icy? What if it snows? What if it's very windy? What if it's too cold? What if my car breaks down? There's a large number of things that people from cities just find difficult about going back into nature. And they kind of just think, I can only go back into nature when it's perfect weather conditions. And you then need to train your staff accordingly to actually be able to do the upselling necessary for some of this readiness for winter. So let me give you an example from gardens. And gardens is something we normally think of as some, places that you will visit just in spring and in summer. But actually, this particular set of gardens from RHS, Royal Horticultural Society in the UK, they have vast gardens. But one of the things they've done is they've looked at how do we make our gardens attractive across the year. And they do that because they offer year-round membership. And their purpose is, we don't want to sell people just coming once to our attractions. We want them to become members and to essentially become sponsors and to keep coming back, because where we really make the money is the souvenir shop and through selling lunches and mid-afternoon cakes. So what they've done is they've even changed the planting program. So different parts of the garden look interesting at different times of year. So this is dogwood, for example, you can see in here. Or you've got midwinter fire as well, mixed in, depending on the colors. And so you can have plants that look beautiful in winter. And in summer, they look like nothing. But then again, mixed with these, there are other plants that look good in summer. So don't have the entire garden peaking at one point in time. But last week I was talking to some people in Catalonia, and they were saying, oh, we now have tourism of people going to see almond trees blossoming, right? And I mean, right now, if you have any acers, acers at the moment are looking just beautiful. Like people travel all the way to Japan to see the cherry blossom. Why are we not selling these as part of the things that we've got to sell? And you may say, well, maybe you don't have cherry blossom. Okay, well, maybe you have peach trees. The blossom of peach trees is just as beautiful, if not more beautiful, than the cherry blossom or the almond trees blossoming. Why are we not selling these in some of our agricultural destinations? Okay, so once you have a better understanding that the market that you got at the moment, you've looked at it too narrowly, you don't know enough about your market, and that many of the resources you got available, you have not necessarily exploited to the way that you could. This is the moment to now start thinking, how do we design more innovative experiences? And look, marketeers have shown us how to do this in a number of ways. Now, you may say, of course, with the current cost of living crisis, maybe premiumization, which I've listed in here, may not be the thing. Maybe right now we need to look at ways in which we can strip it down to a lower cost of living. But for certain, for the last 10 years, the 5 elements I'm talking about here have really been at the key of most of our marketing campaigns. So we need to personalize services. Why? In summer, we have no time to personalize anything. In summer, it feels like we're just packing them high, treating them like they're customers, that is, treating customers like they're in a conveyor belt. And it's like, okay, next. In winter, we've got the time to actually offer something personal. We've got the time to actually get to know the names of the customers. We've got the time to actually see who they are, right? So when a customer comes to your hotel and they enter in the hotel and they say something to you, do you go to your customer relationship management system, which you should have, and do you enter a record against that person's name that says, they are here this weekend because it's their birthday. They really like these things. This customer's vegetarian. They really like room 203 last time, and they don't like so much room 23 this time. Like, do you add this kind of data? So next time when the customer books or shows some interest, you can go to those details and you can remind them. Now, I know in summer you haven't got the time to do this, but in winter you do. Right? If your receptionist in your hotel is ever spending any time looking at their own Instagram account as opposed to working for you, they should not be working for you anymore because you're paying them for this time. So they need to actually be doing a lot more work into personalizing the services, into getting to know your customers, into offering something unique. Package offers. There will be things in your destination you can say, this is what I'm offering, and this is what is going to cost customers money. But there are other things that I could offer off-season. It's going to take some of my time, but it's not going to cost me much money to deliver it. And because I've got the time to do it now, I can offer that as a way of upgrading, upselling my product, as opposed to reducing the cost. So I remember talking to an owner of accommodation provider in a rural destination, and she said to me, my 17-year-old son is a good-for-nothing person who doesn't help in our home business at all. And I said, so what's your son good at? He loves cycling. And I said to her, and the son never thanked me for this, okay? But I said to her, let's do a campaign where we say to customers, in March, if you bring a bicycle to our accommodation, we will help you do a fine-tuning of the bike. We will fix your brakes, we will grease your chain, we will make sure that everything works on the bicycle, and we will show you some of the safest routes for families to go as a family cycling near here. And now your bicycle is ready for the whole season. How many people have bicycles they bought in Decathlon 10 years ago, and they've been sitting in the garage for way too long, and the tires are flat and the brakes are not working and so on? We offered these in March, every Saturday throughout March, because March was otherwise going to be empty. It costs us nothing other than some of these, woman's son's time to actually say, after breakfast, I'll help you with your bicycles. I will change the tire. I will do this. I will do that. And essentially, many of those families now say, this is now a place where we can say, my daughter learned how to cycle here. It's a place where we actually did something as a family. It's a place that has much more meaning for them. And when they want to go cycling somewhere, they're more likely to say, we'll go back to this particular place. So in the same way, think of how you'll package things and how you'll make your experience much more premium. How do you emphasize the superior quality and exclusivity? So rather than in winter almost apologizing because there's nobody else in the cafe, in the hotel, in the destination, turn the message around and say, this is a premium service. You've got the place to yourself. Consider yourself lucky. Some people will pay a lot of money to have the exclusive usage of this place. I am here specifically to look after you. That's my entire purpose. Okay, so turn it around. Gamify it. Find games that you can give to people, like the one we just shown about, kind of going into nature and doing, some sort of a treasure hunt in nature, and engage your customers into any sort of playful experiences. They encourage the customers to spend more time, possibly more money, but particularly coming back. Spending more money on a given day is sometimes difficult. Encouraging people to stay for longer or to come back or to return with friends is a much more profitable way of investing your marketing dollars. And co-create, particularly when you basically say in the low season, I don't have enough money to put a tour guide to offer an experience. That's okay. This is the moment where you need to make your customers the protagonists of that holiday, right? So, for example, in the UK, David Attenborough is one of the most loved figures in the entire country. That's fine. Create a program in your accommodation or in your national park called Baby Attenborough. And Baby Attenborough is going to be a system where basically, rather than David Attenborough recording videos about the beauty of nature with that really iconic voice that he has, you basically do a competition where you will get children to use the parent's telephone to record something about nature in the place where they are, imitating the voice of David Attenborough. And you can then encourage them to post these on TikTok or on Instagram or anywhere else. And you can have a competition, and the family that wins, you give them a prize. And in the meantime, you had 75 families doing marketing for you of your location. And some of those films will be hilarious. They will be just fantastic. Obviously, there are more classic things that we can do, and Hetty is one of those really creative people. Every time I talk to her, I just love all her ideas, okay? And we just keep bouncing ideas off each other. And one of the things she's done beautifully well in the Forster Boland AOMB, which I believe is an EUROPARC member, is creating a dark sky recovery site and encouraging businesses to be dark sky friendly. And I know a number of you have also done this. Now, I don't have the time to go into what made this one particularly work well, as opposed to some others. You may say, well, we've tried and it hasn't necessarily worked. You may have to talk to Hetty about it. Maybe we have some time at the end. The beauty of winter is that you actually have to work together. Okay, so in summer, every business can say, I'm doing things by myself. In winter, you don't have the choice. You need to support one another. One of the things that worries me the most about tourist destinations and businesses is every time I look at an accommodation business and I look at your website, and I look for a tab called Things to Do. And if you don't have Things to Do in your tab, I am really, really concerned. Because trust me, I am not going to come to your accommodation simply because you have a comfortable bed and a good mattress and a pleasant bedroom. If I wanted to do that, for that, I would stay in my own house. I'm coming to your accommodation because of the things to do near your accommodation. So please create a list of the things to do nearby. Do me a list of, here are 5 walks you can do in nature from the doorstep of my property, 3 of which go past a restaurant or a pub, which means I can have 2 pints of beer, right? If I have to drive, I can no longer drink. I'm a less happy man if I cannot have a beer. Give me a list of things to do when it rains, right? So for example, you can have a brochure in your restaurant or in your hotel that says, 10 things to do when it rains, 10 things to do when it's cold, 10 things to do when it's too hot, like Teresa said earlier on, 10 things to do in the middle of the day when it's too hot in a Mediterranean destination, for example. Okay, but if you don't make it easy for me to identify things to do, and here's where the economies of scale come into play, that packaging, that bundling of ideas, then you're going to be into trouble. Okay, so the economies of scale can come from a local theatre company saying, we can organize a murder mystery weekend. And you can say, great, I have an accommodation. Let's do it together. And what do you have to lose? You experiment, you learn. Okay. I really like the campaign for the Atlantic Development region. Essentially, 5 different municipalities got together and they said, people see the seaside as a place to go to only when you can go in the water. We actually want to encourage people to come back to experience the beauty of walking along the waterfront, but also doing thrills, outdoor sports, as well as the well-being, nature, the family products. But the communication style is based on vocabulary drawn from the mountains and the winter games. So in France, basically saying it's not the winter temperatures that stop people going on holiday. Otherwise, nobody would go skiing, right? Because it's not, people don't say, well, I'm not going to go skiing because it's cold. So the challenge here, they said, is how to encourage people to come to the coast when it's winter and to understand that you can go to the coast with your clothes on and still have a really good time. Okay, so this multi-sector collaboration has been really successful at positioning this region as a place where you can go and visit it in the winter. And linked to this, there are many other things that you can do. So for example, you can create a bucket list. Like I'm originally from Catalonia, the region that Barcelona is the capital for, and we want to create a campaign that says the bucket list. You're not a good Catalan unless you've done these 50 things. But I can see this for Scotland, right? You're not a good Scots unless you have visited these 50 different things, or you've tried these 50 different things that make somebody a real Scottish person, right? So you can imagine how people from our own regions don't visit enough places within our own area, okay? So look at out of the ordinary experiences. Your bucket list shouldn't be 50 things that you do before you die. That means traveling to every country in the world. You could do 50 things to do in my own country. You could almost have competitions between friends to see who has done more things within the local area. People like these kind of competition type things. It works really well. Okay. People are yearning for more meaning, and particularly now since COVID, frankly, we need to reconnect. We have never, ever spoken about mental health and mental well-being as much as we have in the last 2 or 3 years. Reconnecting with nature is just beautiful at providing the opportunities for this. So look at ways in which you can sell that experience in a way that is much more human, right? It doesn't feel like you're just selling at people. But also encourage going back to simpler things. The very Danish concept of hygge. If somebody's Danish in the room, please forgive me for my pronunciation. But you can see where I'm coming from. But you could just basically market that differently. And you could say, you know, here is hygge the Andalusian way, or the Sicilian way, or the Greek way, you know, and pick up the concept of coziness and being looked after and warmth and light and wool and natural and fireplaces, and say, we're going to make that very, very Sicilian or very Mediterranean or something else, right? You know, and you can work with that, okay? And also it's time to explore yourself. You know, organize holidays where the fact that there are fewer people around is something that's encouraged. And you can basically say, well, we have programs on wellness, on meditation, on sport, experiences that will give people that comfort. Okay, I'm going very sentimental here, so let me move on. I can see Teresa's getting bored. So we optimize outdoor experiences also during winter. This is something what I talked about with Dawn, and she works in a hotel in the UK. And one of the things they did during COVID, but they've kept doing it since, is they have basically planted these 4 luxury pods with essentially sheltered outdoor dining experiences. And to start with, they were selling dining, okay? Boy, oh boy, they moved on from dining very quickly. Now you pay £40, 50 euros extra on top of the cost of your meal to be able to have either breakfast, lunch, afternoon tea, dinner, or drinks in one of these spots. And essentially you get a small fan heater, you get blankets, you get cushions, you get candles, you get your own Alexa or Google speaker. And so you can play your own music. You've got the bell, so you can call them, you know, the waiter to come back to you, and you can create an environment where you can really feel like you are in the outdoors with your most loved people, whether it's friends or whether it's family, and you can experience something entirely different. Now, Dawn said to me, initially, we rented the 4 pods because we didn't know whether we were going to make money out of them. And she said, within 6 months, we had bought them. We realized that we wanted to keep these pods forever. So I mentioned hygge a second ago, coziness, so looking at how do you translate emotions into experiences. When it's wet, cold and dark, how do I compensate it with warm and light inside? How do I promote timeless experiences? How do I, you know, so there are things that you could do at any time of year, but maybe you'll only give yourself the time in winter to learn painting, drawing, cooking, crafting. How in winter, and I know this is getting harder to sell, but how do I sell unexpected laughs, deep conversations, shared experiences, moments where you actually bumped into people? Like in winter, you can create different experiences. I remember a hotel where I worked over Christmas, and everybody who'd booked to stay in that hotel for Christmas were tables for 2. If they had had a bigger group, they would have stayed at home. And people that said, we don't want to be at home alone at Christmas. My children live in Australia. I'm divorced, whatever. And essentially within a couple of days of the Christmas break, I didn't have 25 tables of 2. I had 3 tables of 20 because people actually got together and they talked and they said, we made friends for life. This was amazing. So how do you design your experiences to encourage people to talk to one another? Right? Put it this way. My mom is in her 70s. She's at home every single day and she says, I am bored, I am lonely. And we know that one of the main reasons why elderly people die sooner is loneliness. And I think this is extremely sad that in our society, people die of essentially something that is totally preventable and something that could be avoided with laughter and companionship. How does your tourism business offer opportunities for people who are retired? And people will normally be reluctant to take the initiative to do something, to actually say to them, we are the place for you to come to. We want you to feel like you belong. Every Tuesday, we will do something for your group, whether it's a walk around the national park, followed by a coffee, whether it is activities that we can do together, but that these people actually have something to look forward to. And if they don't come, they will be missed. And somebody will come and knock on the door and say, are you okay? Do you want to have a chat? Okay. Moving on, I'm going to keep giving you highs and lows. Sorry, guys, but sometimes I get a bit soft in the middle. This hotel in the United States offers really good s'mores. What is a s'more? Essentially, is a sandwich of these kind of gingerbread. Then you got chocolate, and then you got marshmallows, and you put the chocolate and the marshmallows in the middle of 2 slices of gingerbread, and then you warm it up and you toast in the fire. And if you're from the US, you understand what I'm talking about. And if you're not from the US, try it. It's pretty good. Now, what this hotel did is they said, we actually wanted to make the autumn experience be much more about our fire pits. So every single room gets their own fire pit, and you can create a lovely romantic atmosphere all year round, but particularly in the colder seasons. So this $5 pack that gives you the chocolate, the marshmallows, the crackers, essentially the holy trinity to make the all-American campfire classic, is just really, really brilliant for customers. And what they've said is, we've actually seen so many more people post about this. Like, people will not post photos about our bedroom because, like, a bed is a bed is a bed, right? But photos of us enjoying making these s'mores in the fire and then enjoying nature is something that actually, they've seen much more coverage of this hotel's practices on social media from customers, and this was quite helpful to them. Okay, so how many of you have a calendar? And how many of you work through your calendar to provide different things to customers throughout the winter? You probably don't need a summer calendar, right? But you definitely need a calendar between Halloween and Easter. So Halloween, in the UK right now, the second holiday where people spend most money in supermarkets. People spend more money in Halloween than they do for the Easter weekend, right? Which to me was surprising, but that's the data. So I'm thinking people are looking for higher end, tailor-made experiences, and this market is growing fast. You can capture that market. Okay. Then we've got the market for the pre-Christmas office parties. Is a massive market, and many of these people have done the same thing time and time again. And offices, as part of the program for talent retention, are trying to do something that is much more amazing to keep the staff in place. So you can offer some team building exercises linked to the pre-Christmas office party, where the party no longer becomes just a meal, but becomes all sorts of activities that people do. Since people have worked from home much more, there is much more the need to actually bring people back together and give them a sense of belonging. And you can offer this off-season, not only just in summer. There's a brilliant market for Christmas shopping, right? And whether you are, so for example, I've seen many towns that say, in the summer, we used to have an open doors where all the artists in our town would open the doors to their workshops, and you could go into their homes and you could see their own art and you could buy art directly from them. Why don't you do this in the month of December? People are desperate to buy meaningful Christmas presents, other than going at the last minute to Amazon and hoping that Amazon will save the day with a prime delivery within 24 hours because you're just a terrible uncle who doesn't know what to buy for their nephews and nieces. Instead, these kind of Christmas shopping markets around, we've seen all the German markets opening in city centers, but also, why don't we do it much more with artists? Okay. Then you got a fantastic market for Christmas and New Year holidays. Okay. You can do themed Christmases, you can do family Christmas, you can do a jazz Christmas, a folkloric Christmas, whatever you want it to be. Between New Year's and Valentine's Day, this really is the low season. I mean, boy, filling in these 5 weeks is really, really hard. So what I'm proposing here is, to your loyal customers, before Christmas, offer them vouchers as offers. So essentially offer them to give for Christmas a Christmas voucher to come and stay at your hotel. And you can then say, look, if you book with this Christmas voucher, obviously, the value of this voucher is, for example, £100. But if you cash in this voucher between now and before Valentine's, we will give you a bottle of champagne. We will give you a hamper of food in our self-catering property. We will give you whatever else as an incentive for you to cash in this voucher. Now, many people will say, I am unlikely to go on holiday directly after Christmas. But if I've just been given a voucher, because my relatives didn't know what to give me as a Christmas present, and then there's incentive to book quickly, I'm much more likely to cash it in straight away. snowdrop walks, but also any other kind of walks. Look at what's interesting about nature for you at the beginning of the year, and then sell some sort of trail, like sell a sculpture trail in the snow, sell whatever it is you can do at this time of year. Something we tend to forget also is the Chinese New Year. Chinese New Year is always at the beginning of February, and we've got the opportunity to sell it. And there is an increasing large and very wealthy Chinese community that lives in Europe. Okay, from the university students that are studying in many of our universities to people who have established businesses here and for the last 2 or 3 years have not been able to fly back to China to see their relatives, but they still want to celebrate the Chinese New Year. Okay, and then lambing season, and I'm going to move on to the next slide in just a second, but I'm going to give you this example. Teresa, by the time I can see you on the screen. When you think I'm running out of time, just wave at me. Okay, good. But in terms of lambing season, essentially, I work with a business that said to me, Xavier, in March, we are empty. And I said to them, well, you've got 2 alpacas and about 15, 20 lambs. Are any of them pregnant? And they said, yes, all of them. And they'll give birth to the little ones in March. Great. So I said to them, let's do a marketing campaign where you can go to people, customers that normally come in the autumn, and say to them, become a midwife for a baby lamb. Okay. Now, most of us know, if you come from nature, you know that lambs need no help to give birth to their little ones. In fact, the more you interfere, the worse it is for them. But city people don't know that. City people just love coming there and getting close and getting the camera and taking photo, and up they go into Facebook if they're my age, or into Instagram if they're my children's age, and essentially become your best ambassadors to actually do marketing for that property. Okay, but this can only happen in March. Now, there are no new baby lambs being born in May. By then, they're looking cute, but they're still very clean, but they're out in nature. You don't see them being born. Okay, so the challenge that you've got here is create a calendar or adapt the idea of this calendar for something that works for you. Now, if you are a DMO, if you're a national park, you can try to create your own events. If you're a small business, it's going to be difficult for you to do this. So I'm going to skip, past this one quite quickly because I know it only applies to some of you who are here today. Time for marketing and storytelling. Essentially, some of the things I'm going to tell you now, you have heard many, many, many times before, but you have just been a little bit lazy to get creative because, frankly, in summer, you're selling anyway. So you're going to have to work a lot harder at your marketing campaigns. You'll probably have to employ somebody who's about 12, 15 years old to actually help you with your marketing campaigns to totally compensate with the skills that you already have. And when I say contract somebody who's 15, I'm not even joking, okay? Because they're going to have many more creative ideas than you do on how to use social media and the internet more generally to do that marketing. I have learned so much more from my daughter on online marketing than I ever thought I was going to. But that's a conversation for another day. So identify communication channels you can work with. Do some Googling yourself. Google online 10 things to do in winter in my area. Replace my area for the name of your location and see what's being offered. And you probably will be disappointed. And you'll say, we can do more than that. Or do a search that says winter wedding venues in my area or winter days out and see what's being offered. And you can probably think, I could add something to that list. But also go to the journalists who are writing those lists and say, I have something to add. Next time you do that, add these 2 or 3 things that are very local to me that would be really interesting. So identify these online publications and talk to those people. Enjoy winter photography. Look at even this photo. We dressed a child with a jacket, but you can see by the sky, and you can see particularly by the fact that this oak tree, I can even see it's an oak tree from here. And the fact that it has leaves tells me this photo is not from winter. Okay, so you have, look at the grass. It's green, for God's sake. This is not winter. Okay, so we have to find ways of investing in good winter photography. So this photo, which definitely tells me winter, you can see the snowdrops at the front. And this particular abbey tells me in summer, they attract people who are very much into the religious history of this abbey. In winter, they actually encourage people who want to do their snowdrop walk. And they have an entire walk where you can trail along all these beautiful little snowdrops that for many people are the first sign that The darkest days of winter are over, and we're now going into the end of January, and the days are slightly longer. And, you know, we have a sense of optimism when the days start to get a little bit longer, right? If you come from Scandinavia, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So the snowdrop walks are beautiful to introduce an entirely new audience to your location. Okay, harness the power of social media, right? And again, everything in this page you already know. I'm just repeating it to you in terms of how to use it for low season. But you need to set yourself a target. What are you trying to achieve? Learn about your customers. Invest some time on social media analytics. Look at their needs. Look at the things that your customers are normally interested in. Learn from your competitors. Identify what your business are doing well when they're marketing their own business online. Learn about yourself. Go back to your own posts and look at which are the ones that got the highest number of likes, highest number of shares, and say, what's different between those posts and some others? Remember that if every single social media channel has a very different purpose and a very different audience, do not post the same thing in Facebook and Instagram. They're attracting different people. Okay, YouTube or TikTok. Okay, create a social media content calendar. Identify what day of the week and what time of the day you got the highest number of people who will react positively to your message, and use your calendar to actually block time every single week at that same time to post new content. Don't be the kind of person that says, I post something in social media when I remember. You need to post something in social media when your customers are ready to respond to your content. Set up competitions, get people to actually do the talking for you. And if you can, get professional help, particularly around micro-influencers that can basically bring new followers to you. So Boutique Retreats basically is an organization in the UK. They've got 150 unique properties. They know that their properties are doing worse in winter than in summer. And they basically got this couple, you know, this guy here on the left-hand side is super famous in the gay UK community. Him and his boyfriend basically have such an amazing number of followers. You can see this one post on social media they did for Boutique Retreats, 12,810 likes. Are you jealous? Because I am, right? 12,000 likes. This is amazing, right? And look at the message. Peaceful birthday moment spent in our cozy cottage nestled in the heart of the Cotswolds, drinking endless cup of tea. This is what we needed. Smelling the autumn dancing in the breeze. Now, you cannot talk like that. You'll sound like a twat if you say smelling in the autumn dancing breeze. But the social media influencer can do that. Okay, so you have to find ways of doing this marketing for you. You need really good photography, you need good affiliate marketing, and combining that power of good photos with affiliate marketing gives you something that you couldn't otherwise achieve. And I want to apologize for anybody that was offended by my swearing. Become a storyteller. Again, that's important, isn't it? You need to work on that sensory experience. You need to work on your emotional experience. You need to look at problem-solving experiences. Give family, and particularly around families, there's just so much power around this. Engage people to have kind of strong weekend breaks. Physical and virtual experiences. Like all of your storytelling needs to create emotions. They're not stories unless they create that emotional bonding with the place that you're going to go to. Okay, so 2 more slides and finishing. Okay, if you're impatient, we're nearly there. But we haven't lost many followers. We're still at 159. In fact, we've actually gained a couple of people in the last hour. So I'm really happy about that. Well done, you guys. Please be clear on what benefits you can expect. Here are 6 possible benefits you could achieve from seasonality or from reducing seasonality. Please don't tell me I want everything and I want it now. Every single one of your actions need to be directly targeted to working towards one of these 6 benefits. It is going to be impossible that a fundamental problem that we have had since the day that tourism existed will be solved because you attended a 1-hour workshop. Okay, anybody who came today with that expectation, it probably was a bit unrealistic. So think of specific interventions you can put in place that will probably use some of your time, but little of your money, that will allow you to work towards one of these 6 elements. How do I generate income all year round? How do I improve the quality of my service? So we know, for example, that by closing in winter or by having a lower service offered in winter to reduce your operating costs, you're reducing the quality of your service. How do I maintain my prices? So you may say, it's less, we know that customers dislike seeing that your services are, basically costing 50 in winter, but 100 in summer. They end up believing that the real cost is 50, and then when you charge them 100, you're getting away with murder. You may say, what I'm wanting to do is providing a consistent service. You may want to say that what I'm trying to do is use the winter to get more creative, to experiment. I don't have time to experiment in summer. Or you may say that what I want to do is encourage loyalty amongst my customers. So as a takeaway, and we're not going to do this now, but you may want to screenshot this, or you'll get the presentation afterwards from Teresa and Esther anyway. But I think it's important that you identify 3 top-selling products for your destination winter. You write down what makes those products different in winter compared to your summer products. That you assess what is different about your location in that winter, and what is it that you may want to be able to offer. And then you think about, okay, how am I going to enhance what I'm doing right now to become more appealing to my winter experiences? And I'm proposing here, okay, can your product be themed? Can my restaurant have a Christmas theme? We've seen, historic homes dressing the entire historic home on a Christmas theme, and the table, where dinner is going to be is dressed as a Christmas dinner table, and they've got a Christmas tree and so on. And they've managed to get people to repeat. How do I make it longer? How do I make sure that people say, well, rather than coming for 2 hours, stay for 3, because I'm mixing indoors and outdoors activities. I'll do things that they can do, like collecting leaves. How do I make it unique? What kind of tastings, what kind of products can I give them? How do I make it special? Doing things that are not allowed in the peak season. Like, for example, in many places, you cannot walk your dog on the beach in the high season. How do I increase the size of the group? How do I share the risk with another business or we work together? How do I share it with the community? Any one of the things I'm proposing here will allow you to increase your income through tourism. If you want to learn more, please come to the website for our project, tourismexperience.org. The Interreg project that we are talking about basically is a 23 million euro project. So there are plenty of examples of things we have developed both in the UK and in France, the 2 countries where the project is taking place. And I think you'll find some of those ideas and experiences quite inspiring. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Xavier, for this fantastic, inspiring talk. I was not bored. I was just so immersed in the talk. I was reflecting on something that you were saying, as I guess most of the audience, because there are no questions, because we were just like listening. Even though, of course, I have some comments and I do have questions.
And I realized I took too long. I've actually more than 1 hour, which is part of the reason why some people are leaving now.
But can I just, okay, just one question. So when you were saying that you need to, of course, to have this nice visual, nice pictures and nice explanation. Sorry, I have a share office here. But for me also, because I have seen this very quite often. No, you have this new nice website, and then you go to the place, and then they didn't meet your expectations. It's also very important that it's not only about visual. That And one question I have: you didn't mention this kind of new tourists, like the person that go to a place for work. What they would need, what the places, these accommodations would need to offer, like high Wi-Fi. I don't know, perhaps you have any tips on that?
No, absolutely. This is a given. So there are many businesses that say you can now work from home or work from anywhere. And people are saying, well, I'm going to make a longer weekend. Now going to a national park is no longer a trip for 1 or 2 nights. I can make it 4 or 5 nights, and of which I can work for 2 or 3 of those nights. And so but strong Wi-Fi now is a given for everybody. You just need to make sure the customers know this beforehand, as opposed to just finding out when they get there. And obviously that they'll know they'll have a decent desk and a place that they can work from. Yeah.
Yeah, and another thing that I heard recently in our EUROPARC conference, another way to make people stay longer and be more environmental friendly is that in Switzerland they have make an agreement with the accommodation with the train system. Yeah. So if customers stay 4 nights instead of 3, for example, they get a free train ticket, and these just are built by the accommodation and the train system, and I think it's apparently it's working fine. So
yeah, I love it, and it's linked to the idea of packaging.
Yeah,
yeah. And obviously, depending on the size of your business, you'll be able to do more or less packaging. Okay?
Yeah,
but it seems to me that the opportunities for packaging are available to everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. And one more, like, I don't know if it's a philosophical question, but also came about in another conference that I was. So when we are addressing to local, so when I'm visiting a EUROPARC where I'm staying, no, and doing this kind of activities, am I called a tourist, an eco-tourist, or how should I be called? Like, well, customers were saying, I mean, this is a philosophical, but
Teresa, does it matter what label you give yourself?
Because sometimes people don't like to be seen as a tourist because some sectors it has had a bad, connotation. For others, no. So this is just, but I know it's a
I have a big problem with using the label sustainable in your marketing or eco. Because I think that many people will not see themselves identified by it, but actually if you look at their behavior, they're fairly sustainable anyway. So I think we can talk about this on a different day. I've got a different course I can deliver on sustainability marketing much more generically. Okay, so I'll probably commit to coming back and doing another hour on that topic. But it seems to me there are many opportunities available for better communication of what does eco and sustainable mean. And you can see today that all the experience I was proposing happened to be sustainable, but we never ever use the S word to communicate any of it. Okay. I mean, to me, it's off-putting.
Really?
yeah, absolutely. Please don't use the S word. You're doing yourself harm.
So we need to change the name now from our European charter.
Well, you don't have to change the name for the charter, but one thing is how you talk between yourselves, and the other thing is how you communicate it to customers.
Yeah.
Your customers are not members of Amnesty International and Greenpeace. They are just normal people. They just want to have a good weekend.
Yeah, that's the thing, and that's why I was also saying that when you are visiting your place, because the place is my place, am I a tourist?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm a tourist. I'm just a worried citizen with that have interest. To know more and to spend nice time.
But you have to play differently with word in the way things are presented, right? You right now, if you arrive in Helsinki, there is a sign at the airport that says nobody in their right mind would visit Helsinki in November, except you badass, you're welcomed. Now, and you're thinking, fantastic, but the number of I don't know it because I've been to Helsinki. I've seen it so many times on social media because people see it and they say, yes. So what are you doing? You're working on what psychologists call social identity as a way of creating a sense of belonging. Now, you're not going to go to Helsinki because of that, but when you arrive there, it reassures you that you are that kind of cool, edgy, different person. Okay, so you're thinking, okay, like our marketing needs to improve so much, and we have allowed people who have a background in sustainability management to then do the marketing communication, and they're not the right people for that.
Really, we need another webinar. And you have convinced me, Xavier. And I think Esther agrees. And I think all the audience will also appreciate it. We will need to discuss largely on that. Yeah. For all the audience, please, before, when you have a minute, just answer a form so that about the satisfaction of this webinar, so that it will help us to improve. The link is on the chat. And yes, as we have said previously, all the material will be available in our website and the recording of this webinar. Thank you very much to all of you. Have a nice week. And thank you again, Xavier. Moltes gràcies.
Thank you for having me.